This is a video which tells you how to produce the Scots Kirk service handout, service sheet, using the software at the website canva.com. Maybe a good place to start is with what it is we're producing to give you an idea of the information you need every week to update it. All of this stuff doesn't change. Eventually it is possible to change the background picture, but we won't worry about that just now. It's easy enough and it's an option. We'll just do the basics today. You're going to have to change the date to the coming Sunday. If necessary, you'll have to change the worship leader, although typically it's going to be Ian at the moment. You're going to have to use a liturgical calendar to find out what it's called. If you Google liturgical calendar, that's easy enough. I've got one here: 4th Sunday after the Epiphany, 5th Sunday, last Sunday, then Lent, and so on. It's not too difficult. As I say, Google liturgical calendar and you can find that information. Then you'll need to fill in all the hymns, you'll need to fill in the hymn numbers, you'll need to fill in the Bible readings and the page numbers. All of this information will be supplied to you typically by the worship leader, possibly by Sylvia McKillop. Sylvia is very helpful for things like who's doing the readings, who will be doing the prayers for others, the organist, etc., etc. And the worship leader will tell you about prayers for the week, which go in here. The worship leader will tell you about thought for the week, that goes in here, and upcoming events you can get from the calendar either on the Scots Kirk website, or you can get those from Susan Giddens's dates for your diary, which she sends to us in advance, but she herself recommends using the calendar on the website because it's more up to date. Alright, so this is what we're producing. And now I have to go about telling you how to produce it. Another document, sorry, just before we go. These days, the information coming from Ian will come in this form. He'll send this to you in advance and before the service takes place. This date is wrong, he hasn't updated it, but they're using, Ian and Alice are using some software now which generates this kind of run through, and as you can see, it has the hymn numbers in it. And that's really the most important thing that you need here. It also shows the final running order of the service, but we're not concerned with that anymore. That's not our issue, but it's very, very helpful for the hymn numbers because you're going to be cutting and pasting them from this document. So you will be sent this by Ian in advance. So how do we go about doing it? Well, you go to canva.com and I've got a tab open here already. Because I've saved it. There's a web document that I've prepared on the Scots Kirk website that explains how to log into canva.com for the first time. Once you've done it once and saved the password, when you arrive at Canva, in fact I'll demonstrate it now if you like, I've saved it in here, Church, all your designs, Canva. In you come, and it gives you a few examples of some old and new ones. I've been making a few changes to these ones which are in black, which is why they haven't quite updated, and it says it's still generating a preview. Don't worry about that. The two templates, don't touch them, basically leave them where they are. Please don't do anything with them. That gives us something to go back to. And let's take for an example preparing the service for the 28th of January. How do I suggest you do it? The usual way. Start with the one from the previous week, the 21st of January. So hold on, that wasn't a very good start. We need to make a copy of it, and if you notice, every time you go in any of these things, a little arrow appears, menu arrow appears in the top corner. If you click on that, it says make a copy. So let's make one. Copy of 21st of January 2018, and the first thing to do is change that to the date you want, which is the 28th of January 2018. One technique worth knowing if you've not got to it yet is double click highlights a word, triple click highlights a whole line. I find that quite useful and it saves a bit of time. So we've now created it, we want to go in and edit it, and it tells you what to do to achieve that. Click to edit. So we'll click to edit. Let's do it. In we go, and now we're in. You can ignore all this Canva layouts on the side. This is them trying to, if you like, not sell you, but offer you various different ways of doing it, but we've got a good way of doing it already, so we don't need to worry about that. One of the issues immediately is the font's quite small, it's not that easy to see, it's a little bit difficult to work on because things are quite close together, so I suggest you make it bigger. And if you go down to the bottom, here's how you make it bigger. If you click on plus, it goes up to 50, click on plus again, it goes to 71, don't ask me where these numbers come from. Click on it again, it goes to 75, which I find I can work on quite well, but to make it a bit more visible, let's go all the way up to 100, and I'm sure you can go beyond that. So first thing we want to do is we want to change third Sunday after Epiphany to fourth Sunday after Epiphany. And to do that, you put the cursor over what you want to change, you click on it, and you can see it becomes active. If I click down here, you'll see that part becomes active. Click here, this becomes active. You can resize things and move them. Most of the time we won't want to do that. Double click on a word, you get Sunday. I'll just move it a little bit further along and change that to fourth, and that's done. Need to change the date. It's like falling off a log, it really isn't difficult at all. And then finally, Rev Ian McDonald. Pretty straightforward, I hope you'll agree. Now, one thing that's quite good about this is it saves automatically as it goes along. If you get nervous about things not saving automatically and you want to save for yourself, you can hit on an Apple computer, you can hit Command S, on a Windows computer you can hit Control S, or if you want to do it from the screen, if you go up to the File option here, click on File, it then says Save, and then it saves for you. If you make a mistake, you might find Undo quite helpful. You click on Undo, and you'll notice that Ian McDonald changed back to Mr. Mark Jeffrey, and if you think, oh no, I didn't want to undo that, well fine, click on Redo, and it changes back to Ian McDonald again. So it's quite useful in the things that it has here, and I'll just save it again. Alright, I'm not going to do the whole thing here, but I do need to go into a little bit of detail. First thing, we might as well start at the top. The hymns, how are we going to change them? Well, you'll notice what I need to explain before we go any further here is this thing looks good, it's attractive, and the price we pay for it looking good is that everything is fixed in place. So if you delete something, like for example the first hymn, the other ones aren't going to move up automatically to fill the space. Now, which means you sooner or later you're going to have to start moving things around, but most of the time that won't be necessary because we always have 4 hymns, and if there's a 5th one I've already created a space for it. We always have 2 Bible readings, and if there's a 3rd one I've already created a space for it, and so on. You will eventually need to move things around when we get to the upcoming events, but I'll come down to that later on. Most of the time it's very easy. Let's try changing the first hymn. So, Thy hand, O God, is guided. So we highlight it, and oh, what's the first hymn? Well, no problem. We go to the document that Ian sent us, and here it is, God of Freedom, God of Justice. Just for a laugh, I'm not going to choose, well actually I will choose that one. So all you do is in the PDF file, you copy and paste. So I'll hit in a Windows computer Control C, on an Apple computer Command C. So I've just copied that, and then click back on this window, triple click to highlight the whole lot, and then Command V, Control V to copy it in. And the really good thing about it is it automatically sets it to exactly the right font, so everything works brilliantly. You don't need to reformat it and change the font, although fonts can be changed here and font size can be changed here. Hopefully you will never need to do either of those things. One of the issues you might have noticed is there's not a lot of space here. And if we go along here and let's say find a longer hymn, here's one, look at this. Let us build a house where we can all dwell. Now that's going to be the last hymn. I'll copy it with Command C or Control C. And let's say it's the 4th hymn. This is just an example, it hardly matters, but I'll put it in here. Control V. Oh, it's too long. Disaster. Now it's not a disaster, but as you can see, in theory I could move this and I could sort of resize it or something like that, but let's not bother. The simple solution is to shorten the name of the hymn a little bit. So what I propose it, whoops, notice I moved that by mistake. Oh, panic, I've moved something I didn't like to do that. Great, click on undo and it moves it back. I suggest just shorten it a bit. Dwell, let us build a house, and that'll do, done. You know, we're not going to try and change the font size or anything like this. This is still the correct name of the hymn, and we're done, and I will save it. I haven't done putting in the hymn numbers, but as you can see, these are exactly the same. Let's put in let us build a house just to get it right. 198. I'm copying and pasting. You hardly need to do that. I'm sure you could remember a 3-digit number. 198, and we're done. That's it. File, save. I'm still paranoid about that. Bible readings, exactly the same procedure. I'm not going to do that. Prayers for the week, Ian will typically inform you about them. Let's go, if I go in here, he's sent an email. Prayer topics for the children and young families in the church. Great, we'll stick that in for the children and young families in the church. Copy. Back to Canva. Go in here. Highlight the thing I want to replace. Control V. And it reformats it automatically. It really is pretty good. Really works quite well. It's quite straightforward. And once you've done it a couple of times, it's pretty quick. Thought for the week. Again, I think you'll find that Ian supplied us with one. There we are. I'll copy it. Go back to Canva. Triple click highlights the whole thing. Control V copies it in, and I don't think it really needs anything. I mean, we could leave it like that. If you're really interested, you might want to put that a little bit further over. I'm just using the space bar or something like that to achieve that. But it looks fine. It's readable. And again, file and save. What I'm not going to do is put in the readers and the prayers for others and the organist and so on. The organist is almost always Melody, and once a month it's going to be Deirdre. This information will come from Sylvia. I don't have that yet, but again, to change it, it's very straightforward, exactly the same principle. Notice the regular things like the art group, Scottish dancing, bringing by books, and the prayer group, they just stay here all the time and they never change. So there's much less in the upcoming events than there used to be. There's only the kind of special, unusual items that go in here. And this is where it gets a little, just a little bit more complicated. So we're trying to do the service for the 28th of January, so obviously this 24th stuff is going to disappear. We're not going to have that anymore. Now what happens, as I've said before, is if you triple click and delete it, how am I going to do this? Yeah, we'll do it this way. If you delete it, bang, it's gone. If you triple click this stuff, that goes, so you triple click this stuff and hit delete after highlighting all of it. If you're wondering what I'm doing here, I'm just pressing the delete key once I've highlighted everything, and now it's gone. And as I've said to you already, this stuff doesn't move up, so now it's our job to do that, and this is where it gets a little bit more tricky. Not massively complicated, but a little bit more. Look carefully at the cursor. When it's a normal cursor and you're pointing, you can select things, but when you get on top of something, you see the cursor changed into a sort of arrow pointing in all four directions. And what I want to do here is this Wednesday 31st of January stuff, which was at the end of the list, well, now it's actually at the beginning for the order of service in the following week. The cursor is telling me I can move it, so I have to drag and drop it. So I've clicked the mouse, and I'm now going to drag it upwards. And notice when you start moving things, these lines appear to tell you where to put them. Very helpful. So if I put it there, it's too far to the left, and there's no lines. And if I put it there, it's just right. And if I put it there, it's obviously not lining up properly. So you have to line it up quite carefully. The lines are there to help you. I'm not exactly sure where to put it horizontally or where to put it in relation to the heading, but you know, the same kind of space as in the previous section. So I'll put that up there, and now I need to move all this stuff up. So remember, I clicked on it by mistake there. I don't actually want to click on it. I want to wait until the 4 arrow mouse pointer appears, click with the left finger, and then just drag the stuff up. And notice this time you want to line it up horizontally with what's already there, and you want to justify it on the right hand side with what's already there, and we're there. And then finally bring in my books, which was already there before. Something like it doesn't have to be. That looks to me to be a little bit too close. Maybe I can move that up. No, that's just one thing, isn't it? So I'll probably have to. Oops, no, not down. You see what I mean? You have to kind of play around with it. And what I suggest you do as you practice. That isn't too bad. And this one, Sunday the 28th of January. Well, that's obviously not correct. When's the following Sunday? It's the 4th of February. When I'm on duty. Okay, fine. So we go in here, and now this is just an editing job. Highlighted the whole thing. Use some arrow keys to get rid of that. Sunday 4 Jan, morning worship, Reverend Ian McDonald, and perhaps there's something else to put in there. And that again is the second bit where you need to get a little bit more clever, because how do you start typing in here? You need to give yourself a typing option, and remember, you can't just type straight onto it. You have to create a kind of space for you to type into with the right font and so on. Easiest way to do that is to copy one that's there already. So you can see how the box appears when you move the 4 arrow pointer over it. What I want to do is let's just take a copy of one that's here already. So I'll click on it, and notice up above this little menu appears to enable you to deal with text. If I don't click on that, that menu disappears. If I do click on that, menu appears, and one thing in here is more. That's cool. And when you go into more, one of the things is copy. And if you select copy, it makes a little copy of the same thing that you just had, and then using the 4 arrow thing, you can move that into the correct position and line it all up. Something like that. Now, it's not going to be morning worship, who knows, whatever information you've got in the dates for your diary, but now this is just an editing job. And if you want to create the smaller thing with the time, the same thing applies. Click on it, more, copy, and it appears. When you've got a 4-way pointer, you can move it and move it into the right place. Now obviously this isn't correct, we've got 2 things repeated, but now you've got something there that you can work on and that you can change, and you can change this to whatever day it has to be, or Tuesday or so on. It's pretty straightforward to do, but remember, you can't just type straight onto a blank space. You have to create a little box into which you type, and the easiest, you can create it from scratch, but the easiest way to do it is to copy one that you've got already, click on it, more, copy, and I've created, I didn't want to do that, great, just click undo and it goes away. That's how it works, and that's it. The upcoming events is the thing that's going to take you the longest. I can see that maybe taking 5 minutes or so once you know what you're doing. Everything else, really, each section should be done in under a minute. It doesn't take long at all. And that's it. It really is a simpler process than it used to be. It's taken me a while to talk my way through it the first time, but we're just about done. Only other thing we do have to do now is to create a PDF file of this, which can be sent to all the people who need to know. And how do you do that? Well, no problem. Maybe it's probably a good idea just to make sure that we've saved before we go any further on. Up here there's a download option. When you click on download, it says PDF print recommended. Just go with all the defaults, all pages. It's got 2 pages, and we hit download, and it takes a moment to put it all together. You get a lovely little quote to read while it's preparing your design. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to hold tight to, but I will, and then it pops up on my screen, and obviously this is just an example, but I've got the date right, and I've got Ian in here, and I've updated this, and I've done some of the hymns, and it looks pretty good, and it doesn't take that long. Now there's one more stage, but I'll make another video for that. as things stand, this is what should be posted on the website, and this is what people want to see, and this is what you should send to them. The only other thing you need to do is prepare something for the people who are going to do the copying, because one of the features, of course, of the new order of service is that it's A5. We print 2 of them on one page of A4 nowadays, and the one limitation of Canva is it only creates an A4 size order of service. So we need to get a little bit creative to pack 2 A5, I'm calling it the order of service, 2 A5 service sheets onto one page of A4. And because that's a separate operation, I'm going to explain that in the next video that you'll find in the same space as this one. But this is what needs to be posted on the website. There's already a video on the website to explain how you do that. And this is the one which is probably a good idea to email out to everybody, because it's easier to read in A4 form than A5 form. So have fun with that.